Welcome to Who Dares Rolls. I'm Charlie Etheridge Nunn, and today we're having a look at the One Ring 2nd edition. Now, this is an interesting one for me. I never really thought that much about doing a Lord of the Rings role-playing game. My family have great love of Lord of the Rings. My mum was an extreme Tolkien weeb. We had an old, fraying, falling apart version which we were never allowed to touch as children. We had, I had a mural of Rivendell on my wall in my bedroom growing up. So it was always something quite near and dear. I still remember it, Lord of the Rings being one of the big first proper novels that I read as a child. My mum read The Hobbit to us when we were on holiday and was pretty much of the right, Lord of the Rings. Here's a copy, just not the fancy fraying old copy. So I got really into it, and when I was about 20, I read it again and was like, it's all right, and had a lot of those bad opinions that you normally do around that time, going, oh, poetry's rubbish, Eagles, all of that, Tom Bombadil, what's that about, and the million endings. And I kind of filed it away there. I grew slightly away from fantasy as well. I read Wheel of Time and too many D&D novels and thought, fuck fantasy, really? And remained that way until I realised the book I'd been resting behind my head during Alexander Technique, Game of Thrones, which I'd won in a game of chance. That was being adapted into a television show by HBO. And I was like, oh, maybe this is actually good. It was. I mean, TV show tailed off at the end, but the book, really good. Song of Ice and Fire, raced through that. Started trying Wheel of Time again, and no, still not a fan. And eventually, about 3 years ago, I finally got round to rereading Lord of the Rings. It had been way too long since the last time I read it. I'd seen the films, loved the films, played the LCG, adore the LCG so much. But revisiting the books and going back through it, it reignited the love of Tolkien. Because you know what? Turns out he's pretty good. You know, that Lord of the Rings, I'm pretty sure it's going places. So I really loved that. I went from having all of the usual kind of shitty opinions of eagles. Oh, it's like, well, no, obviously it makes sense. The giant eagles aren't going to fly them over because they're going to be visible at that point, the forces of Mordor. Tom Bombadil, I know the reason the author, Tolkien, chucked Tom Bombadil in there because he wanted to play with his nonsense poetry, but it still kind of makes sense as that realisation of what the odd, eldritch, fantastical, naturey magic was, you know, both wonderful and foreboding at the same time, and nothing at all like the magic of Sauron. And what Saruman and Sauron and all of that bring with the kind of industrialization and the horrors to come. And even the Scouring of the Shire, which is brutal, but wonderful to see these 4 hobbits who have been changed, just immeasurably changed by their journey, and going there. And it feels almost like, just when we thought we were out, like that one final fight to claim back what they had, what they held dear. Because, you know, saving the world, saving everything from Sauron, that's great, that's wonderful, but this adds that slight level more of personal stakes. And actually, there is a role-playing game called Back Again from the Broken Land, which is a wonderful way of mechanically showing that kind of return, that kind of journey. And it was really interesting to see and to step through. Now, I never bothered with the, MERP, the Middle-earth roleplay. I immediately bounced off of Rollmaster as a concept. Too much everything. And I know MERP is supposed to be the simpler version, but also, again, it's a crunchy beast, and I'm not a crunchy beast. I'm fluffy. I like your more narrative experiences. I like a bit of a storytelling extravaganza, these kind of things. And again, I had that feeling, if I wanted to run a fantasy game, why would I put it in Middle-earth? That's their story. That's their thing. And as time went on, talking with friends and reading games like Back Again from the Broken Land, I saw those elements, those nuggets of opportunity, of the ability to play in that world, in that land. And a friend of mine, Dom, is a massive Tolkien fan, bigger than me easily, as a Tolkien fan, and physically bigger. I'm just a fairly short person. But he ran us the Adventures in Middle-earth role-playing game, which is, I think, the last 5th edition game that I ever went through. And it was all right. Dom is a great GM, and his grasp of the lore is amazing. But it still ultimately felt like it was D&D 5th edition. And that's no slight on him, on the other players. Mechanically, it encouraged the things that 5th edition encourages. And no matter what, no matter how Tolkien-y you're going to make the world, it's still going to be D&D 5th edition. I never played the original version of The One Ring, so I don't know how the mechanics have changed between the 1st edition and 2nd edition, but I do know how Adventure in Middle-earth felt and the subsystems that it was trying to hammer into place in a vaguely 5th edition format. So this is The One Ring 2nd edition. This is The One Ring 2nd edition. I've had a look through an amount of this in the PDF already, and it's gorgeous. This book, you can just about see the texture on here. You expect a good quality product from Free League. I adore their Alien RPG. I think that's the first physical RPG of theirs that I've owned. I've read Symbaroum. I own Symbaroum digitally. Same with Tales from the Loop. They have a fantastic sense of quality. So I thought I'd have a quick examine of this here today. So this is the core rules. It's got everything you need to play except for dice. It's got, let's see, rules for travelling across land, facing frightening foes, and meeting the personalities of Middle-earth. So that's journey, combat, and council. This is something that Adventures in Middle-earth tried doing with certain subsystems and skill sets, but it kind of felt a little limited in place because it was tied to skills, classes, things like that. So most of it was the facing frightening foes. And as someone that's a big fan of Lord of the Rings, it's not all about that. In fact, any big battles, any big kind of war scenes, anything like that, is not triumphant. People that go into these battles are messed up by them. You do not come back right. And you can see that as much as Tolkien may not have liked the idea of allegory, his experiences with war informed a lot of the way in which the people involved in fighting and the lack of glamour of fighting comes across, and actually finding the beautiful parts of the countryside of the world, as well as the dangerous parts, the sense of foreboding, the sense of fading beauty and magic in this world. That is such a core element that an RPG, in my opinion, will have to capture those sides of it, rather than just elf do a fight. And I like elf do a fight. I made an elf, Bombadil, who was great fun. Worryingly Cloud Strife in elf form, as it turned out, which I hadn't intended on doing, but it's kind of how it felt like in the end. But yes, so there are rules for all of those. There is thorough advice for the Lore Master, which is the GM role, and how to bring Middle-earth to life, including rules for magical treasure, the Shadow, and the Eye of Mordor. In-depth information on 6 patrons. Now, this is something which, again, was in Adventures in Middle-earth, and it'll be interesting to see how it works here. So, individuals who sponsor your adventures. So, that could be Bilbo asking you to do something. It could be Gandalf, similar to in the actual books themselves, having him in charge. A bestiary, rules to create your own nameless things. That sounds exciting. And a complete landmark adventure of the Star of the Mist, with extra support for new lore masters. That I'm torn about whether or not to actually read myself. I'm going to have to check out with Dom whether or not he's going to run that, or the starter adventure, or possibly both. We have big map, big hex map, and this helps with the journey side of it, because you'll be plotting out where you're going, how you're going around it. Oh, there's the South Downs. They're looking a bit more orange than the ones out that way from me. But yes, similar to Forbidden Lands, there's a sense of a kind of hex crawl mentality with travel, with going places, what you encounter, what's going on. Now, let's see. This is what I love with the artwork that Free League bring. The chapter headers each have those kind of lovely painted double page spreads. Let's see. Yeah, now when I'm out on a wander, when I'm up on the downs, it's that kind of, this sort of thing that's in my head, even as an adult. Like, as a kid, I'd be dragging sticks around the countryside, roaming through trees, clambering about, but even as an adult, you kind of need an amount of that. Then the actual pages inside the chapters have a kind of more drawn quality to them. Still some amazing artwork, and even the minimal approach of just a helm really helps break up the passages. So you've got, let's see, your cultural backgrounds. If you want to make a hobbit, and who wouldn't want to make a hobbit, then you can have, let's see, your different virtues, your different elements of their cultural heritage. We have, let's see, adventuring phases. So this covers all of that. With attacks, we have, of course, these days fairly standard looking equipment tables. Is there anything else exciting I should show you before I crack open a box? Ooh, the fellowship phase. And I mean, if I could live in a hobbit, who knows? Maybe I would. As long as it had good Wi-Fi, I guess. Right, so yeah, the Lore Master has all sorts of fun that they can do with the Shadow. We have exciting bits here. Oh god, the Wolves of the Wild, which gives us several different types of wolves to play with. Unlike, say, your Dungeons and Dragons games where you've got the massive monster manual, it's a little smaller in here, but that's where the systems to make your own kind of help. And I thought I'd done showing you some of the beautiful double page spreads, but I have to show you that. You've got your little bits of map. All in all, a really interesting looking book, really nice looking system. So let's do this one next. This is the Loremaster's screen. In the old days, I generally wouldn't have gone for a screen, but this is landscape, so I'm not going to be peering over it at the players. I'll be able to have my notes, be able to have any of the rules reference. If I have to run it online at any point, I can have it under my monitor, which is what I've been doing with Deadlands. But more importantly for me, it has Rivendell. I like an elf. I'm a bit too hobbity and dwarven in real life, so I do tend to like playing a dexterous character. So we have an overview of Rivendell, and we have, let's see, some patrons. We have High Elves of Rivendell, and different virtues you can get. So if you want to make a Rivendell elf, there you go. It's the elves from Lindor, I think, which you have normally. Oh, it's upside down. Behold the screen. Got all these rules on the inside. Got journey rolls, journey events, marching, all on this side. You have when to roll. There's danger, knowledge, or manipulation going on. Always good to remind GMs, you don't always need to roll. You can just say yes. Sources of injury, wound severities, got risk levels, conditions. You can become miserable. That's a bit sad. So yes, screen, nice, easy. Now this, okay. This is where a bunch of the elements, of the Kickstarter stretch goals came in. Now, I bought the Alien Core book, and about a year or two later, I bought the Alien starter set, because so many of the accoutrements, so many of the extras were in the starter box, but not in a way where you'd never do it. You'd never need the core rulebook, in a way where it was definitely supplemented, and personally the shorter, more dramatic rules just being in one smaller book, I love that. I don't care much about the character creation or campaign side for Alien, because it's a horror movie as an RPG. Anyway, back to this. Inside the lid, to act as a kind of screen of its own, I guess, we have dice. This is one bit of bad news with the dice. So you have these skill dice, success dice. These are D6s. You can see little symbols on there. We also have feat dice. Now these feat dice should have a 1 on there, but unfortunately they have an 11. So if you're getting this, just be aware. There's a white set here, and there's a stretch goal, a black set. Here, which I might keep around as a set for me as a lore master. We have Freely Catalogue. We have a map. Let's see, what's your side? My side's for Shire. So, the Shire. So yes, and then a bit of a wider view. There's one of the things about this which I find adorable about this. It's not the silica gel. It's that the starter set, being a starter, has you all as hobbits, such as Drogo Baggins. So you have character sheet, a bit of information. You have, let's see, they've even got Bilbo in here, and a dwarf, which one of my friends, Ben, loves playing dwarves, so he'll be well suited by that. We have, so I guess as a GM you could just put both of these bits of box up as your screen. The adventures, again, not reading these because I'm pretty sure Dom's going to be running that. We have the rules, a nice short version of the rules themselves. Let's see. Yeah, the structure of the game in the Shire. Okay. Action resolution. It's pretty slimmed down. It goes into skills, endurance and hope, adventuring, combat. Really nice and simple. To be honest, even with using the main book down there, this might be good to have at the table for players to have an easy reach. And then, the Shire. Get to learn about them hobbits. Got a brief history, got a sidebar about blowing smoke rings. Got your map, hobbit walks. I do like a good hobbit walk. And then drilling down into West Farthing. Let's see. Did not expect one of these lovely double page spreads. South Farthing, North Farthing, and East Farthing. It's already making me want to go on a wander on the South Downs. And that's always part of the beauty of these kind of fantasy stories, fantasy realms. It makes you want to get up, get out there, wander a hill, then you're doing the right thing. So, additional to these, we have, like the look of these, they are not coasters. Get the feeling I'm going to be saying that to a lot of players. You have different stances when you're in a fight. You have open, forward, rearward, and defensive. These tell you a bit about what you're doing and where you can do them. So rearward is ranged combat, everything else close. These allow you to know where you stand, what kind of thing you're doing in a fight. So open, you get no advantage or disadvantage, and rally comrades. If you're forward, your attack gains a dice, but all attacks aimed at you gain a dice. That kind of thing. The reverse side has the different roles when you travel: guide, scout, hunter, and lookout. Same again. Wonderful. Love these kind of things. Do like giving players references, and these are nicely visual modes for them. And finally we have, let's see, these are probably all equipment cards. They look like the kind of thing which, while not necessary, if I'm teaching a demo, and I do often, then they're kind of perfect to be able to hand out. I had the same with the Alien game, where I had gear cards. Didn't really need them, but they're still quite nice. Nice little bits of artwork, bits of rules. Let's see, I think, you get some duplicates. Mail shirt, leather corselet. Okay, a couple of bows. It's good because sometimes you do have to get players sharing with these. Let's see. Yeah, swords, cudgels, daggers. So yeah, pretty much what it says. So that, in fact, I might put. Okay, I might not put the screen in there. Nah, just just too big. But there we go. That is the One Ring starter set, screen, and cool rulebook. All very lovely indeed. Looking forward to getting these to the table, both as a player and a GM. That's it for me, and I'm sure you'll be going there and back again with me soon enough. As ever, like, subscribe, Patreon, all of that, and I will see you soon.